recently you gave a talk about true meditation,
Yeah.
and you brought up a term, creative response, and you just mentioned the term and you kept going.
Uh-huh.
And it seemed like the real key to bringing true meditation from sitting to day-to-day life.
Uh-huh.
And I just wish you could expand on that term.
Did you remember the context that I was speaking in?
Um,
I hope.
yeah. I mean, if you'd like, yeah, sure, I can try.
Because I don't.
You first talked about true meditation, in the form
Yes.
of,
Yes.
sitting still.
Yes.
And then now we're going out into our day-to-day lives and we're going to, move. And things would happen, and how do we respond from awareness with a creative response?
Okay.
And it was like, okay, what's that?
What's
And
creative response?
Yeah, and you just whiz kept going. I'm like, wait a minute, stop, come back. And
Well, of course I did, because the more you say about creative response, the more you ensure that it's not creative.
What?
In other words, the more you ensure that it's manufactured. As I've said before, in Zen there's this term we call prajna, which has been translated lots of ways. Sometimes as heart wisdom, sometimes as prior to knowledge, which actually I kind of like. It applies to a number of things, but it is this sort of spontaneous and I hate intuitive. It's more than intuitive. It's a knowing. It's a knowing. Mm-hmm. It's a knowing before the mind knows. It's not a mental knowing. It's an intuitive knowing. It's a complete bodily. Your whole being knows, right? Most people's taste of it, although not full access often, but a taste of it is when they have a sudden aha. Aha. I've been thinking about that forever, and all of a sudden I just relaxed and looked at the clouds for a minute, and aha, they relax their cognitive process, and then a deeper wisdom, right, knowing prior to knowing, right, arises. And it's not only a knowing, which is what we call insight. Aha, now I see, now I get it, now I understand. How did I get there? I'm not quite sure, but I know it's a gift. There's also the same sort of spontaneous arising of action, of relationship, right? Of relationship, of how we're being, how we're in relationship, how we're moving in the world of time and space, can be informed from that same place of aha, right? And that's what I was calling a truly creative response, because what arises from that place underneath the mind, deeper than the mind, what arises from that place is an intelligence that's actually an intelligence that's connected. It's operating from wholeness, right? So it's like connected to everything. It's operating from wholeness. It's the intelligence of the whole, rather than your or my mind is an intelligence of a part, namely this part, this mind, smart or not smart as it may be. Prajna is an intelligence of the whole. It's taking in all. You get what I mean? And there's a response that comes from the whole. And that's why I call that a creative response, because it's taking into account the whole. Of course, as soon as your mind tries to take into account the whole, it can't. Your mind can only take in the parts. It might quickly collect the parts and say, I've got lots of parts, so it must be the whole, but it's still a very small part. So a creative response, and it sounds complex maybe, and it sounds mysterious, but it's actually not mysterious, it's not complex at all. It is what people learn usually in very small segments of their lives. So a great musician learns to let go. A jazz musician who is improvising they're not doing it from a rational, sequential, cognitive movement of mind. They can access their mind, they're bringing in elements that they've learned and pieces of music that they've heard, but there's a wholeness that's operating, right? So people who are great musicians, great athletes, great possibly at at times, great writers, great artists, they're accessing this place of wholeness, and something's happening through them. Of course, it brings an expertise in that very narrow area, but what I'm talking about is life.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Life itself. And so that's when we really let go and we're not trying to solve everything mentally, it starts to arise.
So from the point of true awareness, as we, awareness, it arises.
Yes.
Creative response.
Yes. When we're in consciously in true nature.
Right.
But really, when we really let go, it comes more and more when we really let go. It doesn't necessarily come, it comes in bits as we awaken, but just you can have an awakening, a glimpse beyond the veil. And often part of this will happen. That's why you hear people talk about, I had this scene and life just flowed for 6 weeks. It just flowed, right? Them as a psychological self was out of the picture. And so this creative response was their life. And that's just the moments of flow. It just flowed. Not only were they flowing, but mysteriously everything supposedly out here starts to flow for them. Right? Because it's not as we awaken, since it's all one, it's not just me, everything starts to alter itself. When you flow, the world flows. Doesn't flow perfectly, it doesn't mean, everything just totally works out every second of the day. But they're the same thing, right? Get the feel?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Yeah, and the best thing we can do to realize that, of course, we realize who we are, and then we really deeply realize that we don't know. That's one of the best aids. I don't know. What should I do? I don't know. What's right? I don't know. Not only do I not know, I can't know. Period. End of story. Ever will I be able to know? Forget it.
Yeah, I know you're not a technique guy, but that's
the technique.
Exactly.
That helps.
I don't know.
Yeah, because you don't. Right?
Then when you...
With any certainty.
With that, creative response can flow?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Now, I don't mean then you fixate, because sometimes I'll talk that, and people will go, I realize that I don't know, and it becomes their mantra. And yeah, they've let go of their knowing, but they've fixated in this place called I don't know, which isn't very creative at all. Your life kind of falls apart, and you don't know what to say, and you don't know what to do, and you go, I must be in the ultimate reality because I don't know. Okay. I just say that so that not knowing doesn't become the next fixation. It's like a prescription for thinking we know. It's like, here, take not knowing. Realize that you actually don't know what you think you know. Realize that you can't know what to do. You can't possibly know. You can't ever say, do I know this is the perfect thing to do? Everyone keeps asking, how do I know? How do I know? And I keep saying, you don't know, you can't know, forget it. Quit arguing with reality. You can't know. And it doesn't mean, okay, now what I know is that I can't know. Because that disconnects you again. You're stuck in a concept. You're still stuck in the mind. You're just stuck in the opposite thought. But between those two, I know and I can't know, when there's a relaxation, you see, it's like a musician who says, I don't know what I'm going to play. Here's my 3-minute solo coming up, and it's an improvised solo, and I don't know what I'm going to play. I can't know because it's improv. Now, if they just said, good Lord, I can't know, the band would, the director would go, bingo, and they'd go, I don't know. Right? You see, there's a difference, isn't there? But if it's an antidote, they realize, I can't know what I'm going to play. That's why we call it improvising. So now it's not a fixated point of view. It's just the truth. I can't know what I'm going to play. Okay, gosh, I can't wait to find out what's going to come out of my horn, though. Right? Now you're in a different state. Now you're here. You're right with the moment. You are, as I call it, the self is in a constant state of discovery. That's its state. It's constantly in a state of discovery. Like a jazz musician discovering what's going to come out their horn when they just let go. Constant state of discovery. And that's creative response. That's flow. That's flow. The more we know we can't know, the easier it comes.